Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take big stacks of research and get straight to the surprising insights.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're tackling a massive text. We're doing a deep dive into the Gospel of Matthew.
It is a phenomenal document.
And we're not just reading a history, we're looking at what is really a political manifesto. It makes this radical claim that a carpenter from Galilee is the long-promised king of the Jews.
You're absolutely right to call it a manifesto. I mean, when you look at the four Gospels, Matthew has a very specific, a very deliberate audience in mind.
The Jewish reader.
Exactly. He is setting out to prove beyond any doubt that Jesus of Nazareth is the Messiah, that he is the king who fulfills every single ancient promise.
And that focus is what makes it so distinct, right? It's such a contrast to, say, Mark, which emphasizes Jesus as the perfect servant.
Right.
Matthew is just obsessed with lineage, with prophecy, with structure. He uses the most Old Testament citations of any book in the New Testament, something like 129 of them.
And they're all there to secure that one central claim. It's like the ultimate court case for kingship.
So to appreciate that, we really have to look at the man who wrote it, Matthew, also known as Levi.
An apostle, an eyewitness, and maybe the most unlikely person to write this story.
Unlikely is an understatement.
Yeah.
His former job was, well, he was a publican, a tax collector.
And we have to understand what that meant. This was a universally despised role in Jewish society.
It wasn't just working for the government. It was, active collaboration with the enemy.
Precisely. You're working for Rome, the competing kingdom. And they weren't just employees. They were known for being exploitative, overcharging their own people.
So in Jewish culture, they were basically outcasts.
Oh, completely. They were lumped in with thieves and murderers. They couldn't even enter the synagogues.
And Matthew's specific office in Capernaum, that was a real moneymaker. It was on the main trade route between Damascus and Egypt.
He was in one of the most profitable positions in the whole region. He had a lucrative life.
Which makes what happens next so dramatic.
Yes. This entire career, this life built on wealth on mammon, is just abandoned instantly, the moment Jesus calls him. It's a total 180.
So what does that background tell us about the reliability of the gospel itself?
Well, it tells us the author was a first-hand witness. He saw these things. But more importantly, he wrote this while the events were still recent history.
When other people were still around to verify it.
Exactly. The other apostles, Jesus' own family, they were still alive. If Matthew were just making up legends, he would have been challenged immediately. His account is grounded in testimony.
Okay, so let's dive into how he starts that proof. Because he doesn't start with miracles or ministry. He starts with paperwork, a genealogy.
The structure here is everything. Matthew is providing two different lineages that you have to see together. First, the human lineage.
To prove he's a descendant of Abraham and David.
Right, to secure the covenants.
No.
But then there's the divine lineage, conceived by the Holy Spirit. So he is king both legally and divinely.
And Matthew deliberately organizes that human line into 3 groups of 14 names. It's so structured. Why was that symmetry so important?
It wasn't just for neatness, It was a theological statement. It demonstrates God's faithfulness across history. You're looking at 42 generations, something like 2,000 years, showing that the promises made to Abraham and David are now finally being fulfilled.
So it tells the Jewish reader that history isn't random.
Not at all. It's a controlled structure, and it leads directly to Jesus.
And that's such a stark contrast with John's gospel.
Oh, absolutely. John's writing a universal gospel. He's focused on Jesus as the Son of God, so he doesn't need this complex earthly timeline.
If you're the Son of God, you don't need a family tree.
Exactly. You need to prove your existence before creation. But for Matthew's audience, that connection to David and Abraham is absolutely mandatory.
Speaking of connections, the immediate reaction to the king's arrival was, well, it was explosive. Especially from the existing power structure, King Herodes.
Herodes the Great was a ruler completely obsessed with his throne. Paranoia was, you could say, his defining trait.
And we see the horrific result of that when he hears a child is destined to be the king of the Jews. He orders the massacre of the innocents.
It's just brutal.
There's that famous line from Caesar Augustus, who was no gentle soul himself. He said, "It is better to be a pig than a son of Herodes."
Yes. And Herodes was Jewish by religion, but utterly merciless. He famously executed several of his own family members. So this interaction right at the start establishes the core conflict of the book.
The true king versus the corrupt kings of the world.
Precisely.
But the first acknowledgement of the true king comes from outside of Israel, from the Magi. the wise men?
They came from the east, likely from Persia or Babylon. They might have been Jewish proselytes or just men who were aware of the messianic hopes spread by the Jewish diaspora.
They knew the old prophecies.
They did. They knew about a star rising from Jacob. They came, they adored him, and they offered gifts fit for a king. Gold, frankincense, myrrh.
And their story has this powerful takeaway which Matthew emphasizes. They were warned, and they returned by another path.
It's the constant lesson of the kingdom, isn't it? Those who genuinely encounter the true king. They never go back the same way.
Their whole map gets redrawn.
Their route, their destination, everything is permanently altered.
That detour leads to the flight to Egypt. Why was that move so important?
It was another key prophetic fulfillment. Matthew quotes Hosea, "Out of Egypt I called my son."
So he's positioning Jesus as the true Israel.
Yes, and as a second Moses. By going down to Egypt and coming back up, Jesus is acting out the story of Israel, called out of oppression to achieve the ultimate act of salvation.
Before that ministry begins, though, we meet his herald, John the Baptist.
And John causes this immense national stir. Multitudes are coming out to him in the desert confessing their sins.
He has this incredible moral authority, but when he meets Jesus, he shows this radical humility.
He says, he must increase and I must decrease. He just refuses the spotlight. He knows the glory belongs only to the Son of God.
Which brings us to Jesus' baptism. If Jesus had no sin, why did he need to be baptized?
He says it's to fulfill all righteousness. It wasn't a baptism of repentance for his own sin, but an act of identification.
He's identifying with the people he came to save.
Exactly. The king is submitting to the very requirements of the law he came to fulfill. It was, in a way, his public inauguration.
So once he's inaugurated, the king sets up his headquarters, and he does it in Capernaum, not Jerusalem.
A very strategic move. It fulfilled Isaiah's prophecy about a light coming to Galilee of the Gentiles.
Right. It's a diverse region.
It's a crossroads. Capernaum sat on major world trade routes, so Jesus' ministry was immediately exposed to all kinds of people. And from there, he delivers the constitution of his kingdom, the Sermon on the Mount.
And this sermon is huge. 3 whole chapters. The sources say something like 60% of Matthew is just Jesus' teachings.
It's the blueprint for the kingdom. And what's so fascinating is how it immediately establishes the difference between this kingdom and every other human kingdom. The ethics are completely inverted.
How so?
Well, everything the world applauds. Status, aggression, wealth. Jesus says true happiness, what the Greeks called makarios, this deep inner peace. It comes from qualities the world despises.
Okay, let's start with the first beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit. That sounds kind of passive to a modern ear.
It's the opposite of passive. The Greek word is tokos. It doesn't just mean poor, it means destitute, a beggar, someone with nothing to claim.
So it means being aware of your own spiritual bankruptcy.
Total spiritual bankruptcy. It's radical dependency. The only people who can receive the king's resources are those who admit they have none of their own.
And that leads right into mourning. Blessed are those who mourn. This isn't just about general sadness, is it?
No, the Greek points to a deep, profound lament. In this context, it means grieving over your own sin and unworthiness. And paradoxically, that specific sorrow is what produces true divine joy.
I think the most misunderstood one is probably the meek. People always confuse meekness with weakness.
And that completely misses the point of the Greek word, praus. It's not timidity. It was used to describe a powerful animal that had been trained, like a broken-in horse.
So it's power under control.
Exactly. Power under control. It means choosing not to fight to defend your own honor, submitting to God's will instead. And that controlled strength is what inherits the earth, not aggression.
That perspective changes everything. And all of this seems to aim for the blessing for the pure in heart.
Katharos. It means clean, unadulterated. Think of separating wheat from chaff, or pure gold without dross. This internal, single-minded purity. That's the condition for the reward.
Which is seeing God.
Seeing God continuously, now and in the life to come. It's the ultimate human purpose, and it requires singular devotion.
Speaking of devotion, Jesus then gives 2 metaphors for how his followers should influence the world. Salt and light.
Right. Salt is the internal influence. It prevents moral corruption. It's felt, but often unseen.
But it has to stay salty.
It has to maintain its salinity, its unique character. If Christians are just assimilated by the world, they lose their usefulness. Influence depends on being different.
And light is the external influence.
Yeah.
The visible part.
And light can't be hidden. Our good works, the word is kalos, meaning beautiful or attractive, they have to reflect Christ, not draw attention to ourselves. The whole point is that the Father in heaven is glorified, not us.
The sermon also gets very practical. On prayer, Jesus just assumes when you pray, not if.
It's a given. And the key lesson is rejecting ostentation. It's not a performance for human applause. True prayer is private, in the tamion, the pantry. The goal is to please God, who sees in secret.
And this connects so deeply to the challenge for Matthew himself. The command about wealth. Don't accumulate earthly treasures.
This is why Matthew is such a fascinating author. He gave up a fortune to write this. The danger isn't just having money, it's the love of money. When money possesses your heart.
Jesus even personifies it. He calls riches mammon, a lord.
A lord that demands exclusive dedication. And he says you can't serve both. You cannot serve God and mammon. For Matthew, the former servant of mammon, that was a literal, life-altering command.
That divided loyalty leads right into anxiety. Jesus calls it both futile and unbelieving.
It's futile because worry doesn't add a single moment to your life. And the Greek word for anxiety actually means to strangle. It's pulling your life in opposite directions.
And unbelieving.
Because it makes Christians act less dependent on God's care than even the pagans. The solution is to rest in God's daily provision and seek his kingdom first.
So that sets the standard. Now let's look at how Jesus illustrated this with parables. The parable of the sower seems to define the different responses to the kingdom message.
Right. The soils are human hearts. First, you have the hardened heart, the path. The word is just stolen by Satan because the heart is insensitive.
Then the superficial heart, the stony ground.
Immediate enthusiasm, but no depth, no roots. It fails as soon as there's a cost involved, like persecution.
And the third, the occupied heart, the thorny ground.
This heart is profoundly divided. It hears the word, but it's choked by worldly cares and the fascination of riches. There's that mammon theme again.
It's trying to serve two masters.
And it ends up fruitless. The key marker of the good soil, the true convert, isn't just hearing the word, it's producing fruit and persevering.
He also gave two parables about the kingdom's growth, the mustard seed and the leaven.
Right, and they show two different aspects. The mustard seed is the visible external growth. It starts as the smallest of seeds, but grows exponentially into this huge plant.
That's the observable growth of the church.
Yes, but the leaven, or yeast, is the invisible internal transformation. It's the rapid, silent, effective way grace changes a person from the inside out. It transforms the conscience, the mind, the will.
Finally, we have to look at forgiveness. The parable of the unforgiving servant. The financial comparison here is just staggering.
It's meant to be. It illustrates the impossible scale of the forgiveness we receive from God compared to the tiny debts we're owed by others.
So the first servant was forgiven 10,000 talents. That's an insane number.
It's almost an unimaginable figure. A single talent was about 15 years of labor. So 10,000 talents is maybe 150,000 years of labor.
It's an unpayable debt, utterly incomprehensible.
Correct. And yet this same servant, who was just cleared of that, immediately turns around and refuses to forgive a colleague 100 denarii.
Which is about 3 months' salary.
Exactly. The lack of compassion is just shocking.
And the lesson is brutal. A lack of forgiveness proves that your heart hasn't actually grasped the mercy it received.
It shows an ungrateful, hardened heart. If you can't forgive the 100 denarii, it suggests you never truly valued the 10,000 talent debt that God cleared for you.
So Matthew really succeeded in his mission. He proves Jesus is the king, the Messiah, and he lays out this clear blueprint for life in the kingdom of heaven.
A life of radical humility, justice, service. A life that stands in total contrast to the world's values. The book leaves you completely informed on who the king is and what he demands.
And it all comes back to the author, Matthew, the tax collector, despised for serving Roman mammon, who becomes the apostle of the king who says you cannot serve God and mammon.
His entire life is the proof of that radical, instant transition. He had to look at the most profitable thing in his life and just walk away from it because it was a competing master.
So as you reflect on this deep dive into Matthew's king, maybe consider this question, which is at the heart of this inverted kingdom. What is the one thing in your own life that operates as a competing master, whether it's wealth, status, reputation, demanding that exclusive loyalty that must be abandoned to truly follow the king?